Welcome everyone to another episode of Follow the Light Music Review. My name is John DeLaurentis, and this is episode 8 in the series Revisiting the Classics. And today we're going to be looking at an absolute classic rock album that is a classic rock album in all the best sense of the word. I'm talking about DeGarmo Key's second album, Straight On. So we're going to get into our discussion about that in one moment, but I would like to encourage you to please subscribe to the channel, comment below on what you think about this album, and also share the video, ring the bell for notification, and all those things help keep my channel growing. And as you know, this is a new channel. It started on December 31st of last year. So I really appreciate your support. Okay, so let's get into this particular album that I'm spotlighting in this Revisiting the Classics series. And we're talking about DeGarmo Key's Straight On album. And this is an album that also added band onto it. So the DeGarmo Key Band. And we'll look at the CD in a little bit. This is the reissued version from Girder Music. And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's in their Legends of Rock series. But this is an album that came out in 1979. And they had one album prior to this. Like I said, this is their second album. The album that preceded this was This Time Through. That also came out on Lamb & Lion. Both these came out originally on Pat Boone's label, Lamb & Lion. And this came out in 1979. And, you know, sometimes when a debut album comes out and it's a really strong debut album, they call the second album that band puts out a sophomore slump. So we can think of some of the great classic rock albums of maybe the 1970s, which I know very well because I grew up listening to all kinds of classic rock in the 1970s. Think of a band like Boston, right? Their self-titled debut album, one of the greatest rock albums ever released. Did they have a sophomore slump? Well, don't look back. Their second album was a good album, but it was nowhere near as good as their debut album. And you can see that in some other examples as well. With DeGarmo Key, that is not the case. No sophomore slump here at all. This album is probably, in my opinion, their strongest and best album in their whole discography. And I'm a big DeGarmo Key fan. Their music kind of changed from what was on this album. They went into a more pop rock venue, and that's when they really became popular. Basically from the Mission of Mercy album, which I believe is 1983 forward. And of course they had some inroads into some avenues, like on MTV, their song 666 was featured on that. In fact, the original version was banned. They had to modify it because MTV didn't accept it in its original form. So they did go and make inroads, and I think they were one of the big bands of the 70s and 80s, along with Petra and Whiteheart. As far as impact, and they put out a whole bunch of albums, and maybe at some point I'll do a complete discography about DeGarmo Key. We could look at each of their albums and the progression of their albums from the beginning up until when they disbanded. So Straight On, for me, I would list this as one of the greatest albums ever released in Christian music. CCM Magazine, in their book, The 100 Greatest Albums in Christian Music, they listed this at number 95 out of their 100. For me, I would rate this album much higher than that. But of course, in that book, they're covering all genres of music here. So the band is at the top of their game on this release. This is a classic rock album in the truest sense of the word, one that could stand right next to all the best of the 1970s classic rock albums in the mainstream world, without a doubt. The songwriting craft on this album is impeccable. It shines like a diamond on a sunny afternoon. The album explores musical elements of blues, prog rock, even some jazzy parts on here. And if you think of a band like Steely Dan, right? So Steely Dan was a jazz rock band, had some success with some singles, some incredible singles. But what made Steely Dan really stand head and shoulders above maybe just the normal rock man was their impeccable musicianship. Just absolutely incredible guitar work, keyboard work, singing, everything. Just top-notch performances on those Steely Dan albums. And I would liken this album to having the same musicality, the same high caliber of musicality as the Steely Dan albums. This is that good of an album, that well played. Dana Key's guitar playing, certainly underrated. I think when we think of the best guitarists in Christian music, probably Phil Keaggy would probably come to mind immediately. But Dana Key may not be mentioned, and I think he should be. And maybe it's because later on they kind of did go more pop rock and there was less of that kind of room for a lot of electric lead guitar solos and stuff. But Dana Key definitely, I think, is one of the most underrated guitarists in Christian music and one of the best. And his lead vocals, he has those kind of smooth Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers type style vocal, but also could use a nice gruffness in his voice if the song needed it. Eddie DeGarmo also shines on the keyboards. He fills out this album with soundscapes that are both powerful and packed with melody. So just two absolutely fantastic musicians. And the rest of the band that's on here, they're no slouches either. We have Ken Porter on bass and Terry Moxley on drums, and they provide that solid rhythm section throughout. And and their contributions are on a couple songs on here. There's also some contributions on sax by Lewis Collins and Carl Marsh on recorders. And another thing that stands out about this album is the production is absolutely top notch. You can put this album on and then you could put on what was the latest mainstream album in the 1970s and compare the production, and it is just as good. The production is high quality. Maybe that was one of the things that was talked about in Christian music, that the music was good in the beginning, but maybe the production wasn't so great. But there's no doubt this production on this album is completely stellar. And we're going to talk about the remastered version here, but I can tell you right now that Rob Caldwell, who remastered this, did an impeccable job. It was already, like I said, a great production, but it just sounds absolutely crisp and clear. You hear all of the instruments very clearly, and you can really appreciate all that musicianship. Nothing is buried, and Rob Caldwell's remastering sounds fantastic on here. So before we look at the songs, let's look at this remastered version. So like I said, this is the Legends of Rock remaster from Girder Music. And there's the back there with the songs listed there, one of the photos there. And then we have inside the booklet, a nice little booklet inside here that has the lyrics and has a nice write-up here by John J. Thompson of TrueTunes.com. And then the rest of the lyrics on the album here. And then you have a nice little kind of band picture of them goofing around there and some credits. And you see the rest of the musicians there. And CD has a nice carryover here of the front cover. And of course the trade liner repeats what's on the back of the booklet. And again, this is another great layout job by Scott Waters of No Life Till Metal. All right, so let's talk about these songs here. So this album opens up with one of the greatest opening tracks on an album in Christian music. It's called Jericho. And this song, Jericho, is probably in my top 10 all-time favorite songs in Christian music. It starts with this great opening keyboard riff. It's bolstered by the drums and the atmospheric kind of guitar that comes in there. This song is one of the songs I think that really has that kind of Steely Dan type of sound to it, where it's kind of a jazzy groove with rock elements. Vocal harmonies are incredible on here. The song goes into this incredible guitar solo section. This is Key delivering one of the most emotive and passionate guitar solos committed to wax. Of course, coming out on vinyl first. Again, showing how skilled a guitar player he is. And if you want to hear further evidence of this beyond this album, take a listen to the DeGarmo Key No Turning Back live album for further proof of how good of a guitar player Dana Key is. Definitely one of my favorite guitar solos. The song then cleverly weaves this song about the falling of the walls of Jericho, and it kind of serves as a cautionary tale of paying attention to God's call for repentance. And one of the lines says, "I begged you to run from your idols to me." This is the Lord speaking in the verse. "But blind by fool's gold, no, you just couldn't see." So just an absolutely stupendous song to open up an album. This goes into the second song, which is another highlight off the album, often picked by a lot of people as one of the best tracks in the album. It's "Living on the Edge of Dying." This is where there's elements of some prog rock here. They find themselves in this song, and it kind of opens up with like a Moog keyboard type motif as the melodic guitar riffage builds into this orchestrated intro. And then the songs kind of winds down from that into this beautiful piano melody, and a rare appearance of Eddie DeGarmo singing lead vocals on this album. It pushes the song forward with passion. Tasty guitar fills give way to the song's rocking chorus in here. Lyrically, it's a very touching song about finding salvation in Christ through a witnessing Christian. Again, one of the highlights of this album. This is followed by "Go Tell Them." This opens up kind of with a bluesy guitar riff, some nice keyboard flourishes, and the song delves into this kind of funky rhythm as Dana sings his heart out about witnessing to others about the faith. The song then midway has this driving guitar breakdown that leads into fireworks of guitar riffage that again shows Key how great of a guitar player he is on here. Great song. Then the next song is "Bad Living." Now this is, I think, absolutely one of the best songs on the album, absolute highlight on the album. Here the band again ventures into prog rock territory. And when you hear this song, it sounds like you're listening to Styx or Kansas. In fact, I think this song would not seem out of place on a Kansas album easily. It's a great song. Band musicianship again is impeccable. And after the verses, it kind of slows down. It features this kind of piano and orchestrated musical section for the singing of the chorus verse. And then it kind of encourages people in the song to leave behind their bad living and move toward the love of God. Bass guitar really shines in this song, really has a great bass line on here. And again, the song builds itself up into this rocking groove and this Moog style keyboard soloing. It's an incredible tour de force. Bad Living, one of the best songs on there. And that's what I love about this. Is like when I said it's a classic rock album in the truest sense, this is the kind of music, when I put on a rock album in the 70s, it wasn't just everything sounding the same. There was a variety. There was stuff like this in it. You know, detours into maybe softer pieces or into prog rock or into. It wasn't just one thing sounding the same straight through. And this album is filled with variety in its songs that are on here. Then this is followed by Enchiridion. And enchiridion is a Greek word, actually, and it means, literally it means in the hand, but in the sense of what we would use it for, it basically means a handbook or a manual, which is, when you think about that title, I think they chose that title not accidentally, because it leads into another phenomenal highlight of the album called Long Distance Runner, about keeping the faith and running the race. And if you think about that, what's the handbook? The handbook is the Bible. So this is a very lilting, beautiful keyboard introduction that leads into this Long Distance Runner, which opens up with this kind of funky keyboard melody that breaks into, again, a Steely Dan style blues / a jazzy rhythmic motif. And Dana mixes his smooth voice with kind of some gruff parts in there with his voice that pushes the song's creative lyrics about running the race of faith forward. Incredible jazzy guitar soloing on here is featured by Dana, and then later followed by Eddie's keyboard soloing. Just an absolute highlight. Then it moves on to the next song, Let Him Help You Today. This one opens up kind of with a riff that's in the vein of like a Doobie Brothers song. Song tackles the topic of letting the Lord help you through your life day to day. There's some wonderful guitar melodies in this one as well. Dana sings with intense passion once again. And again, they do that kind of slowing down to this softer part, and then it builds up to this wonderful Eddie DeGarmo keyboard solo that's in there, and that's kind of very whimsical and very filled with melody. And then it's followed by guitar soloing by Dana Key, showing his dexterity on the fretboard. And once again, then the next one is I Never Knew You. Now this is a little bit different. This song kind of blends a different flavor into it because it adds what sounds like female gospel vocals. Now there is no mention of any female backing vocals on this album in the credits anywhere, and from what I researched, they say Dana Key did the background vocals on this album. If he did, then they must have used some kind of studio magic because it sounds like a gospel, a bunch of female gospel singers that add to it. And so it kind of gives it that kind of gospel rhythmic sound to it, and it has some nice sax in it as well. That kind of adds to the song's kind of jazzy element to it. So really, really another great song on the album. And then the album closes with Mary. All right, and this is kind of a song that ends as a quiet, acoustic-driven ballad with some angelic sounding recorders by Carl Marshon here. But then it kind of builds up and explodes into this chorus that musically points to the resurrection of Christ. It's a lovely way to end an album that's filled with highlights. You know, from the beginning note of Jericho to the last note of Mary, you're left completely satisfied with this musical experience. I mean, this is an album that you could listen to dozens and dozens of times and not get tired of it. It's a true classic, and it's a definite 5-star rated album, and it's endured the test of time over 45 years, right, since its release. And if I were going to compile a list of essential albums that any Christian rock fan should own, this would definitely be in the top 10 of that list. Straight On, DeGarmo and Key Band, fantastic album, fantastic musicianship, just one of the highlights of Christian music. So again, if you don't own this one, and this one in its original CD form, I used to have the original CD form, which unfortunately I sold off a long time ago, but Girder made this available again in a beautiful version of it. They also, they did a whole bunch of the DeGarmo and Key catalog. So this is available on Girder Music's website. And if you do not own this album, I would say stop what you're doing right now, get online and buy it from Girder Music or from some other source. But fantastic, absolutely fantastic album. One I would highly recommend. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm glad to spend time with you this afternoon, recording this video and spending some time with you. And as always, I would encourage you to please comment on the video. Let me hear what you have to think about this album, your recollections of it. Or if you don't know it, and you decide to get it, and give me feedback after you've heard it maybe for the first time. It's definitely available streaming, so if you want to listen to it before you commit to buy it, you can easily stream it on YouTube to listen to it. But it is just an absolutely classic. So I'd like to hear your comments about it. So that's it for this episode of Revisiting the Classics. And as always, I encourage you to follow the light that shines out of the darkness. God bless everyone.